Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Renu Kataria, and with me is Manoj Singh Rana, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. 12th World Trade Organization Ministerial Conference begins in Geneva. Indian Minister Piyush Goyal says our collective moral obligation is to ensure that no person anywhere in the world goes to bed hungry, and WTO rules should facilitate this. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says America is weaving closer ties with India, the world's largest democracy. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi urges people to mark Yoga Day and make yoga a part of their daily lives. India's COVID-19 vaccination coverage crosses 195 crore mark. World Health Organization advisory group suggests Hunan seafood market in Wuhan, China played important role in amplification of COVID-19 pandemic, recommends further investigations. In weightlifting, Akanksha Vivhare wins a silver medal for India at World Youth Championships in Mexico. And in cricket, South Africa beat India by 4 wickets in second 2020 international match in Cuttack. The World Trade Organization 12th Ministerial Conference MC12 began at WTO headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland on Sunday. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal has said that our collective moral obligation is to ensure that no person anywhere in the world goes to bed hungry, and WTO rules should facilitate this. Speaking at the ministerial meeting of G33 at the 12th WTO Ministerial Conference in Geneva, he said World Trade Organization WTO reform should focus on development whose process should be precise, transparent and inclusive.
India strongly believes that the WTO should not negotiate rules on non-trade related subjects like climate change, gender, etc., which legitimately fall within the domain of other intergovernmental organizations.
Mr. Goyal said India reiterates Prime Minister Narendra Modi's clarion call for sustainable living through Lifestyle for Environment Life, a movement aimed at promoting environment-conscious lifestyle, focusing on mindful and deliberate utilization. He said the WTO should embrace a people-first approach to trade. Mr. Goyal reached Geneva on Sunday to attend the WTO Ministerial Conference that is being held after a gap of almost 5 years. For details, here is a report.
Ministers from across the world will have the opportunity to review the functioning of the multilateral trading system, to make general statements and to take action on the future work of the WTO. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal is leading the Indian delegation in the conference. He said it is India's endeavour to work for a positive and equitable outcome to MC12 negotiations. He expressed hope that the forum will address India's concerns and issues affecting the vulnerable sections of society.
The humanitarian crisis triggered by spiraling food inflation is a matter of deep concern and reminds us of the importance of nurturing domestic capacities to produce food. Rising food prices threaten the survival of millions and subjugate the poor and vulnerable nations and their people to imperfect markets. Our collective moral obligation is to ensure that no person anywhere in the world goes to bed hungry, and WTO rules should facilitate this.
The key areas of discussions and negotiations in this year's conference include WTO's response to the pandemic, fisheries subsidies negotiations, and agriculture issues including public stockholding for food security. India has a vital stake in protecting the interests of all the stakeholders in the country and interests of the developing and poor nations that look up to the leadership of India at multilateral forums including the WTO. The conference is being co-hosted by Kazakhstan and chaired by Mr. Timur Suleymanov, Deputy Chief of Staff of Kazakhstan's President. Kazakhstan was originally scheduled to host MC12 in June 2020, but the conference was postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Nishit Kumar for World News, All India Radio.
The US has said that India and other partner countries have an important role for peace in the Indo-Pacific region. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, while speaking at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore on Friday, described the Indo-Pacific as a priority theatre for Washington. The dialogue was organized by the International Institute of Strategic Studies, London. He said a free and open Indo-Pacific is at the heart of American national security strategies, and the power of the partnerships that regional nations have built with the U.S. forms the core for a peaceful world. The U.S. Defense Secretary highlighted the important role India and other partners can play. He said the U.S. is also weaving closer ties with other partners, especially India, the world's largest democracy. Austin said they believe that its growing military capability and technological prowess can be a stabilizing force in the region.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that India's youth power is the greatest strength of the country. He said country's youth is excelling in different sectors and contributing to national progress. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said that in the last 8 years, NDA government has enabled the youth of the country to achieve their dreams and fulfill their potential. He highlighted that from entrepreneurship to sports, every field is now becoming accessible to youth from all sections of the society. Mr. Modi said every necessary initiative has been taken for the youth. These include new education policy, expansion of IITs and IIMs, new startups and unicorns, and Khelo India Kendra.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has urged people to mark the Yoga Day and make yoga a part of their daily lives. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said in the coming days the world will mark the International Day of Yoga. He said the yoga has not one but many benefits. The Prime Minister has said that yoga is an invaluable gift of ancient Indian tradition. The 8th International Day of Yoga will be celebrated across the world on the 21st of June.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on 8 years of service, good governance and welfare of the poor, Episode 14, National Security and Foreign Policy in 8 years of NDA government.
India is emerging as a strong nation in the world today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has shaped the world's perception of a new India with his dynamic leadership, an India which is confident and caring. In the 8 years of NDA government, diplomacy has delivered at home and abroad, even against a volatile and uncertain world. At the same time, this government has ensured a Sashakt Bharat with significant reduction in terrorism and left-wing extremism on the home front. After the removal of Article 370 and 35A from Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee's resolution of one nation, one law, one head of the nation and one symbol has been fulfilled. Jammu and Kashmir has witnessed good governance and all-round development post-Article 370. A total of 890 central laws have now become applicable in the Union Territory. Human Rights Commission, Women Rights Commission and SC/ST Rights Commission have now been established in Jammu and Kashmir. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that Article 370 has been abolished for the interest of the people of Jammu and Kashmir.
Article 370 ने जम्मू कश्मीर और लद्दाख के लोगों को विकास से और समान अधिकारों से वंचित रखा था। इस स्थिति का लाभ आतंकवाद और अलगाववाद बढ़ाने वाली ताकतें उठा रही थी। अब भारत के संविधान ने जो अधिकार बाकी भारतीयों को दिए हैं, वही अधिकार जम्मू कश्मीर और लद्दाख के लोगों को भी मिल गए हैं।
Ghulam Mohammad Sood, a resident of Kund area of Kulgam district of South Kashmir, spoke about the reforms undertaken by the Modi government in recent years.
आज तक मैंने ऐसा वजीर आजम या ऐसी सरकार कोई आज तक मैंने देखी नहीं है। दफा 370 से उसके खत्म होने से यहाँ की कश्मीर की हमारी रियासत की पूरी डेवलपमेंट जो खास करके डिस्ट्रिक्ट कुलगाम में हुई है, इतनी 70 सालों में नहीं सर हुई जितनी इन 5-8 सालों में हुई है। यहाँ के गरीब आवाम को फायदा मिला, ऐसे आज तक किसी सरकार ने किया ही नहीं।
Incidents of infiltration and terrorist attacks in Jammu and Kashmir have decreased significantly since 2018. The number of terror incidents have declined from 417 in 2018 to 229 in 2021. The number of security forces personnel martyred has reduced from 91 in 2018 to 42 in 2021. The left-wing extremism scenario has shown a significant improvement in recent years. There has been an overall 50.2% reduction in violent incidents and 66% reduction in LWE-related deaths in the period between May 2014 to October 2021 as compared to the preceding period. Home Ministry has considerably reduced the disturbed areas under the Armed Forces Special Powers Act AFSPA in Assam, Manipur and Nagaland. The order, which came into effect from 1st April this year, would be applicable for 6 months. Union Minister Kiren Rijiju said the move will give a further boost to development in the region.
Lots of efforts have been put in by Prime Minister Modi ji and Home Minister Amit Shah ji to bring peace and tranquility all along northeastern region. And when it is successful, it is reflected in this reduction of the AFSPA provisions in many areas. See, Arunachal Pradesh already, they've removed AFSPA long time back, except in 3 districts, which is bordering Myanmar and Nagaland. And now the decision to remove many areas in Nagaland, Manipur, Assam, this shows that the era of peace and development has arrived in northeastern region in true sense.
A greater clarity is evident in India's foreign policy thinking since 2014. The main and first and foremost objective of India's foreign policy is to secure its national interests. The scope of national interest is fairly wide. It includes securing borders to protect territorial integrity, countering cross-border terrorism, regional stability, and so on. Speaking in Lok Sabha during the budget session in February this year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had said that India is being recognized as a global leader post-COVID. He had stressed that India must take global leadership role in the new world order.
एक ऐसा टर्निंग पॉइंट है कि हम लोग एक भारत के रूप में इस अवसर को गंवाना नहीं चाहिए. मेन टेबल पर भारत की आवाज भी बुलंद रहनी चाहिए.
It is due to this leadership that India emerged as the pharmacy of the world. Supply of medicines and vaccines, particularly to the global south, earned enormous goodwill. Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia said that India has supplied COVID vaccines to more than 150 countries at an affordable rate.
इंडिया के लिए स्वास्थ्य एक कभी कॉमर्स नहीं रहा. पहले हमारे लिए वो सेवा रही. हमने हेल्थ को हमेशा सेवा के साथ देखा और इसलिए ही जब कोविड क्राइसिस चल रहा था, दुनिया के पास मेडिसिन नहीं और ऐसी स्थिति में हमने लॉकडाउन होते हुए भी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करवा के देश की रिक्वायरमेंट को पूरा करके हमने प्राइस हाइक नहीं किया और हमने क्वालिटी के साथ भी बार्गेनिंग नहीं किया. दुनिया को मदद की.
In April this year, India and other Quad nations, US, Australia and Japan handed over 2 lakh made-in-India vaccine doses to Thailand under the grouping's vaccine partnership. India is an important strategic partner of the Quad group. This partnership is very important from the strategic point of view of the Indo-Pacific region. In the recently held Quad Leaders Summit in Tokyo, the Quad leaders praised India's vaccine diplomacy. India's helping hand during the trying times of COVID has been appreciated by many world leaders. One among them is Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Canada has secured 2 million doses of the Covishield vaccine through an agreement with Verity Pharmaceuticals and the Serum Institute of India. I want to express my appreciation for the support and partnership of the Indian government in fighting COVID-19 and helping secure these doses for Canadians.
During the peak of the COVID pandemic, Vande Bharat mission helped bring back around 1 crore 83 lakh stranded Indians in over 2 lakh 17,000 flights. This is no mean feat. Government has also readily sprung into action to rescue its nationals successfully from war-hit nations time and time again. Under Operation Ganga, over 22,500 Indians returned safely from Ukraine earlier this year. As part of the Operation Rahat, over 4,700 Indians returned home safely from Yemen in 2015. Talking to AIR, Madhulika, who is a journalist, said that people are relieved now because NDA government has made processes much easier.
मेरे परिवार के कई लोग अमेरिका, कनाडा और लंदन में रहते हैं, जिसकी वजह से मेरा वहाँ अक्सर आना जाना होता है. बीच में कोविड की वजह से थोड़ी दिक्कत आ गई थी, वरना पहले की अपेक्षा विदेश यात्रा अब काफी सुविधाजनक हो गई है. पहले पासपोर्ट बनवाने की प्रक्रिया भी जटिल थी, पर आज के समय पूरी तरह से ऑनलाइन हो चुकी है, जिससे काफी आसानी होती है. किसी बाहरी देश की नागरिकता ले चुके भारतीय मूल के लोगों को ओसीआई यानी कि ओवरसीज सिटीजन ऑफ इंडिया कार्ड उपलब्ध कराने में वहाँ के भारतीय दूतावास भी काफी मदद करते हैं. यह कार्ड मिलने के बाद भारत आने के लिए वीजा लेने की जरूरत नहीं होती.
One of the unique features of India's foreign policy during the past 8 years was the unprecedented diplomatic outreach across the continent, covering small, medium and big nations. Stronger commitment to Africa and the global south is similarly visible in health, education, digital and green growth. In fact, the initiative by the NDA government to reach out to India's neighbours was taken even before Mr. Modi formally took over as Prime Minister. An invitation was sent out to all heads of state and government of SAARC members to attend the swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister Narendra Modi on 26 May 2014. India decided to give 50,000 tons of wheat to the people of Afghanistan in view of the deteriorating humanitarian situation and in response to the appeals made by the United Nations. India has also come to the aid of Sri Lanka, which is going through a severe economic crisis. Relief materials that have been dispatched to the neighbouring country include 9,000 metric tons of rice, 200 tons of milk powder and 24 tons of essential medicines. In 2016, India carried out a successful surgical strike on terrorist camps in the Pak-occupied Kashmir across the line of control within a week of Uri attack. Similarly, the Pulwama attack killing 40 CRPF Jawans in February 2019 was promptly retaliated by an airstrike by the Indian Air Force on the terrorist training centre in Balakot. The prolonged Doklam face-off between the Indian and Chinese troops in September 2017 and the Ladakh standoff in 2020 posed a serious threat to bilateral relations. These were resolved thanks to the skillful use of diplomacy. India's role in the Paris and Glasgow COP summits has been substantial. New Delhi made a case for both climate action and climate justice. India-led initiatives like International Solar Alliance and the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure have found the support of many countries. Non-permanent membership in the UN Security Council has highlighted India's contribution at the multilateral level. India has also been successful in projecting itself on the global stage as a soft power. The International Day of Yoga is now celebrated globally on the 21st of June every year. The spread of Ayurveda has also gathered speed under the NDA government. All these positive changes have happened because Prime Minister Narendra Modi has led from the front. In a polarized world, India has maintained its independence. India is now being seen as a force for good. That day is not far when India will play a global leadership role.
This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
In the Indian Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, 4 Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists were gunned down by security forces in separate encounters during last 24 hours. 3 terrorists have been gunned down in an encounter that began in Rajpura area of Pulwama district on Saturday evening. 1 terrorist was killed in an encounter which broke out on Sunday evening at Sangam area in the outskirts of Srinagar city.
In US, tens of thousands of protesters have rallied across the country to call for stricter gun laws in the wake of 2 recent mass shootings. Those taking part at the hundreds of marches carried slogans like, "I want freedom from getting shot." US President Joe Biden backed the protest, calling on Congress to pass common-sense gun safety legislation. 19 children and 2 adults were killed in the 24th May shooting at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas. That attack and another days earlier in Buffalo, New York, in which 10 people were killed, has led to renewed calls for action on gun control in the US. On Saturday, gun safety group March for Our Lives, founded by survivors of the 2018 Parkland school shooting in Florida, said some 450 rallies would be held across the country, including Washington, D.C., New York, Los Angeles and Chicago. The group said it would not let politicians sit back as people continue to die.
India's COVID-19 vaccination coverage crossed the 195 crore mark on Sunday. Health Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia has said that the country is rapidly marching towards hitting the double century. In a tweet, Dr. Mandavia said in the nation's collective fight against COVID-19, India now has strong protective shield of over 195 crore vaccine doses.
An early investigation into the origins of the SARS-CoV-2 virus by a World Health Organization (WHO) advisory group suggested that the Yunnan seafood market in Wuhan, China, played an important role in the amplification of the pandemic. However, further investigations are recommended. In their first report, a WHO scientific advisory group for the origins of novel pathogens, SAGO, said that key recommendations are provided for further studies needed on humans, animals and the environment in China and around the world that would provide additional information and contribute to a better understanding of how SARS-CoV-2 infected the human population and spread. At the present time, currently available epidemiological and sequencing data suggest ancestral strains to SARS-CoV-2 have a zoonotic origin, with the closest genetically related viruses being beta coronaviruses identified in rhinolophus bats in China in 2013 and Laos in 2020.
In Russia, the adoption of the Declaration of Sovereignty of the Russian Federation in 1991 is being celebrated on the 12th of June. This day is also known as the Russia Day. On June the 12th, 1990, Soviet leaders signed a Declaration of Russia's state sovereignty. The document symbolized the beginning of democratic reforms in Russia. It also marked one of the first steps to the official dissolution of the Soviet Union. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar greeted Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and the government and people of the Russian Federation on their National Day today. In a tweet, he said, India and Russia take forward their special and privileged strategic partnership on the occasion.
The Philippines is celebrating its Independence Day on June 12. The Filipino flag was unfurled for the first time on this day in 1898. Philippines consists of more than 7,000 separate islands in the Western Pacific, declared independence from Spanish rule. Secretary of National Defense Delfin Lorenzana fainted during the Independence Day rites at Luneta Park in Manila this morning. In a statement, the Department of National Defense, DND, said Lorenzana fainted due to fatigue after back-to-back engagements in Singapore, Korea and different parts of the Philippines. President Rodrigo Duterte led the ceremony.
Bangladesh is studying various aspects of the newly formed Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity, IPEF, to examine if it would be beneficial for the country. Foreign Minister Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen said this while responding to the question about China's caution to Bangladesh on joining any bloc. Foreign Minister Dr. Momen said that there may be different observations from various countries, but the decision about joining the IPEF will be taken based on considerations of the national interest of Bangladesh. However, he said there is no harm in hearing advice from others, reports the official news agency BSS. Indian prodigy R. Pragyananda emerged winner in the Norway Chess Group A Open Chess Tournament at Stavanger with 7.5 points from 9 rounds. The 16-year-old Grandmaster, the top seed, was in fine form and remained unbeaten through 9 rounds. He finished the tournament with a win over fellow Indian V. Praneeth and international master. Pragyananda finished a full point ahead of second-placed IM Marcel Efromensky from Israel and Im Jung-min Seo from Sweden.
In weightlifting, Akanksha Vyavhare has won a silver medal for India in the Youth World Championships in Mexico on Sunday. Akanksha won the medal in the women's 40-kilogram category. She finished first in the snatch portion of the event, lifting 59 kg, and third in the clean and jerk section, lifting 68 kg, earning her the silver medal with a total of 127 kgs.
In the second Cricket 2020 International, South Africa beat India by 4 wickets at the Baravati Stadium in Cuttack to take a 2-0 lead in the 5-match series. Put into bat first, the hosts amassed 148 for the loss of 6 wickets in stipulated 20 overs with the help of Shreyas Iyer's 40 runs. For visitors, Andrik Nokia scalped 2 wickets. In reply, the Proteas overhauled the target in 18.2 overs for 6 wickets, riding on Henrik Claessen's 81-run knock. For India, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar picked up 4 wickets. The two teams will play subsequent matches in Visakhapatnam on the 14th, Rajkot on the 17th, and the last one in Bengaluru on the 19th of this month.
In football, India created history by securing a spot at the highly coveted FIFA E-Nations Cup FENC 2022. Representatives from the country will join esports athletes from 23 other nations to compete at the highest level of FIFA 22 esports from July 26 to 30 in Copenhagen, Denmark. Organized and conducted by EA Sports, the FANC is one of the three major esports events that are held on a worldwide scale to crown the global champions of the game. This tournament will feature teams representing their nations and competing in a 2 versus 2 format against opponents from all over the world. The tournament's playoffs 2022 commenced in June 2022. In this double elimination bracket, India will take on several top-tier nations from Asia and Oceania to secure a slot at the prestigious Nations Cup 2022. Charanjot Singh, Sid Chandarana and Saransh Jain are the three athletes who will be representing India at the biggest stage of FIFA esports at Copenhagen for the Nations Cup 2022.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. First, we have a look at the press reports on China. Prasar Bharati Beijing reports that Embassy of India in Beijing and Embassy of Bangladesh in China jointly celebrated the birth anniversary of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore and Bangladesh's national poet Qazi Nazrul Islam with a delightful cultural medley at Swami Vivekanand Cultural Center of the Indian Embassy in Beijing on Saturday. WSJ writes, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said China was taking a more aggressive approach to its territorial claims and warned the Chinese aircraft and ships were increasingly engaging in provocative behavior in the Indo-Pacific. Now let's take a look at the press reports on Nepal. My Republica writes that the government of Nepal has come up with a budget to encourage young entrepreneurs in the coming fiscal year. However, the entrepreneurs say that the programs face challenges in their implementation. Now let's take a look at the press reports from Balochistan. According to the Express Tribune, Balochistan lawmakers have accused the Sindh of stealing the province's water share. According to the Balochistan Post, date orchards in the Gurma-Khan Khudabadan and Tuff areas of Pangjur were engulfed in fire on Wednesday. And now let's have a look at the press reports from Pakistan. Geo News reports that former Prime Minister Imran Khan said that he would march to Islamabad and rebutted speculations that the Azadi March had come to an end. And now let's have a look at the press reports on Bangladesh. Bangladesh Chief Election Commissioner Qazi Habibul Awal has said that a dialogue with political parties will take place soon, reports Dhaka Tribune.
A quick look at the headlines once again. 12th World Trade Organization Ministerial Conference begins in Geneva. Indian Minister Piyush Goyal says our collective moral obligation is to ensure that no person anywhere in the world goes to bed hungry, and WTO rules should facilitate this. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says America is weaving closer ties with India, the world's largest democracy. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi urges people to mark Yoga Day and make yoga a part of their daily lives. India's COVID-19 vaccination coverage crosses 195 crore mark. World Health Organization advisory group suggests Hunan seafood market in Wuhan, China played important role in amplification of COVID-19 pandemic, recommends further investigations. In weightlifting, Akanksha Vyavahare wins a silver medal for India at Youth World Championships in Mexico. And in cricket, South Africa beat India by 4 wickets in second 2020 international match in Cuttack.
And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from the Philippines.
And with that, we end this bulletin. We will be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.